Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I, of course, am just another heavy metal maniac, and today I am doing a number discography ranking. Today, I'm going to be going over all 16 studio albums from none other than the reigning heavyweight champions of death metal, Cannibal Corpse. Now, I, of course, originally did this discography ranking in a tier list format not too long ago, but now I'm remaking it in my new numbered format. And yeah, like I said, we're going over all 16 of their studio albums. And let me tell you right off the bat, this is a difficult discography to rank because this band is very consistent, and I'm going to go off bat on record and say I don't think Cannibal Corpse have a bad album. All the albums are at the very least pretty good. They have a couple that I definitely like more than others, but Cannibal Corpse does not have a bad album in my opinion. So yeah, without further ado, enough of my rambling, let's just get right into the rankings. Starting off with number 16, it is Gore Obsessed, released in 2002. This, again, Cannibal Corpse doesn't have a bad album, so I don't think this is a bad album. Just for me, this is kind of a there album. It's there, it exists, it represents a point in the discography. Now, there is one song on this album that I think is fucking awesome, Pit of Zombies. I absolutely love Pit of Zombies. I think that is a badass Cannibal Corpse song. But the rest of the album, it's just kind of there for me. It's good, but is it an album I'm going to return to super often if I'm looking for my Cannibal Corpse fix? Probably not. Again, Pit of Zombies is an awesome song, but really, none of the other tracks really jump out at me. Nothing else aside from Pit of Zombies really grabs me at all. It does also, Gore Obsessed also does suffer from kind of being wedged in between two albums that I really, really like, so that kind of has that kind of going against it as well. So again, it's just, for me, it's just kind of their album. It's got decent tracks on it, but for me, Gore Obsessed, it is my personal least favorite Cannibal Corpse album, which is why it lands at number 16. Alright, coming in now at number 15, it is Gallery of Suicide, released in 1998. This, of course, was the second album to feature Corpse Grinder on the vocals, and this was the first album also to feature Pat O'Brien on guitars. This album for me kind of just suffers from the same issue as Gore Obsessed, where it's good, but really it's just kind of there. It's just kind of a there album. There are some tracks on it that I think are good, like I Will Kill You. The opening track I think is pretty good. The title track is pretty cool. From Skin to Liquid is one of my favorite instrumentals that Cannibal Corpse has ever done. I think that's a really killer song. But for me, a lot of the songs on this album just kind of blend together. Again, not a lot really stands out. Yeah, cool album cover. I do really love the album cover. I think it's pretty cool, but the album itself, again, just kind of not a lot really, other than the tracks I just mentioned, not a lot really jumps out at me. This album doesn't really grab me much at all. So for me, Gallery of Suicide, it lands at number 15. Alright, coming in now at number 14, it is Evisceration Plague, which was released in 2009. Now, I have a couple kind of a bit gripes with this album. One is kind of the production. Now, there's obviously no denying Eric Rutan is a genius kind of, guitar. He's a great guitarist. He's a great songwriter, but when it comes to producing albums, he is very hit and miss. Look no further than Hate Eternal. Great albums, but some of them are mixed like absolute dog shit. And the production, it's not as bad as like, I Monarch or any of those Hate Eternal albums, but I do have issues with the production, namely the drums. Occasionally, when the blast beats kick in, it does overpower the things at points. Also, my problem with this album is that it kind of feels a bit, I shouldn't say safe, because nothing really about Cannibal Corpse is safe, but it does feel a lot safer and kind of more tame in comparison to a lot of their other albums. Again, this also comes out after another Cannibal Corpse album that I really love, so it also does kind of suffer from that. To me, it's just kind of a bit meat and potatoes. Again, it feels a bit safe, like maybe they were in the studio and they were just like, hey, let's just put out a death metal album, let's not try to do anything crazy, let's just try to put out a death metal album. And they do manage to write some really good songs still. Priest of Sodom is a banger. Carnivorous Swarm, I think, is pretty good. And the title track is one of their more iconic songs. That song is a live staple to this day. Yeah, I think this album, again, it's good. It just, to me, it's not one I'm going to return to super often, and again, the production, I'm not really huge on it. So yeah, for me, Evisceration Plague, again, it's decent, but they have way better albums than this, so for me, it's number 14. Coming in now at number 13, it is their 1990 debut album, Eaten Back to Life. This is one of their most iconic albums. This is honestly just one of the most iconic albums in death metal, honestly. Everything about it, from that intro on Shredded Humans to the awesome album art, which I love this album cover. It's gory and gross and awesome. But as for the album itself, this to me is kind of Cannibal Corpse in a more, I guess, primitive state would be the right word for it. There's a lot more kind of thrash elements on this album, like much more prominent than any of their later releases. There's like tons of like kind of more thrash metal riffs. Barnes' vocals, while they're still kind of very much in the death growl realm, have kind of more of a thrashy, shouty bark to them at points. And and the production of this album is kind of rough, but you can cut them a little bit. It's like this was 1990, and we're still kind of trying to figure out how to produce stuff like this. Except at points the bass is inaudible, which is a crime when you have a bassist like Alex Webster. Like, come on, again, it's a crime if you have a bassist like Alex Webster and you can't hear the bass in the mix at all. But there are some really killer songs on here still. I like I mentioned, Shredded Humans. I think that's a really good song. Edible Autopsy is a banger. Born in a Casket is a great song. Skullful of Maggots, another live staple, obviously. That's a really good song. Oh, yeah, this album, well, I like it. It's good. It's just, to me, it's a good start for Cannibal Corpse, but they would just substantially improve from this album. So, I don't know. It does kind of suck a little bit seeing it at number 13, because I do like this album. It's just, for me, Cannibal Corpse, they have a lot of really killer albums. So for me, Eaten Back to Life, it's number 13. Alright, coming in now at number 12, it is Torture, released in 2012. This album, it kind of, I don't know, it's a little odd. I think it's a little odd seeing it this low on my list. It's just, when it comes to bands like this, at a certain point, it's just like assigning random numbers to albums, because it's like, oh, well, they gotta go somewhere. And so for me, Torture lands at number 12, even though I do like this album. Namely, the song Scourge of Iron. Scourge of Iron is like one of my top 5 Cannibal Corpse songs. My god, that song is heavy and it whoops ass. Live staple, again. I guess maybe a little complaint I have is that I feel like that while Scourge of Iron is an awesome song, none of the other songs on this album come close to really being as good as Scourge of Iron. Although there's still some good songs in here. As Deep as the Knife Will Go, it's pretty good. Followed Home Then Killed, kind of is a bit more atmospheric. The Strangulation Chair is really good as well. To me, this is kind of the we figured it out album. Like, this is, like, I feel like this is the album where Cannibal Corpse very much kind of got their formula down to a T, and all the other albums that came out after this one kind of have a similar feel and vibe. But yeah, I do dig this album. It's just, for me, it's number 12 just because there's other albums that I do like more. But again, Scourge of Iron is a fucking awesome song. Yeah, Torture, number 12, great album. It's just there's other albums I like more. Alright, now number 11 is Vile, released in 1996, and it kind of does hurt a little bit seeing Vile at number 11, because I honestly do really like this album. I think this album is honestly underrated, but again, it's number 11 just because there's other albums that beat it out. There's one thing that definitely holds this album back for me, and that is definitely the production. This was one of Scott Burns' last mixes that he ever did. And you can tell he was on his way out. At this point, he had very much become kind of just disillusioned with the whole music industry and all that. And, he was pretty much done. And so, yeah, the production of this album isn't that great, especially the guitar tone. The guitars are just flat and, like, they're thin, but they're also muddy. And, yeah, I don't really like the way the guitars sound on this album. But they managed to write some really killer songs. I mean, obviously, this was the first album to feature Corpse Grinder on the vocals, which he's still one of the best death metal vocalists there is. And yeah, he sounds absolutely vicious on this album. And like, Devoured by Vermin is one of my favorite Cannibal Corpse songs. I love that song. What a way to start an album. Just right off the bat, vicious, pummeling, heavy, just it's awesome. Mummified and Barbed Wire is a great song. I like Bloodlands, Eaten from Inside. Orgasm for Torture is a really good song. Monolith is pretty good. Yeah, I think another thing that kind of holds this album back is that, again, it comes out after The Bleeding, which to me this album was kind of a poor follow-up to The Bleeding in kind of a couple ways. Whereas The Bleeding was this kind of more, I guess you could argue maybe more accessible, but it was a death metal album that it was full of catchy riffs and great like hooks. Whereas this album was kind of just going for sheer brutality and just heaviness and not really focusing on writing really catchy songs, which I kind of like that style. But for me, with Cannibal Corpse, I feel like that they're much better when they're writing catchier, hookier songs. I mean, this is still a really, really good album. This is still a good album, but it's just for me, it's number 11 just because there's other albums I like more. Yeah, again, I do like this album. If it had better production, I probably would rank it higher, but it's number 11. Alright, coming in now at number 10, it is Chaos Horrific, released in 2023. This obviously is their most recent studio album to date. I mean, yeah, at this point, with Cannibal Corpse, they very much have a formula down, and they've just been writing killer albums for a while now, and you know the Cannibal Corpse train is chugging nicely along the tracks, and they write some pretty killer songs. Again, Overlords of Violence is really good. Summoned for Sacrifice, Bloodblind, which I guess was kind of like the big. I think that did they release it as a single? I think they might have. But yeah, that song is really awesome. Vengeful Invasion is awesome. Drain You Empty is really good too. Yeah, you know, this is just kind of Cannibal Corpse putting out a Cannibal Corpse album. You know, Cannibal Corpse again. They have a formula down that they're just chugging along, and they're probably going to be writing killer albums until the end of their career. So yeah, Chaos Horrific. For me, it's number 10. It's kind of more middle of the road, just because there's other albums I like more, but it is a pretty killer album. Coming in now at number 9 is Violence Unimagined, released in 2021. This and Chaos Horrific are kind of interchangeable to me. I kind of feel very similarly about both of them. Yeah, again, it's kind of the same thing. Cannibal Corpse putting out a Cannibal Corpse album. They write some really killer songs. Again, Murderous Rampage is awesome. Inhumane Harvest is a really good song. Ritual Annihilation is really good. Follow the Blood, I think, is a really good song. Bound and Burned. Surround, Kill, Devour also is a really good song. Yeah, again, this is just Cannibal Corpse doing Cannibal Corpse. At this point, you know, I expect Cannibal Corpse to do much outside of like what they're known for, and I'm fine with that because, you know, they just write killer albums. And so for me, Violence Unimagined, even though it's number 9, I do really like this album. Yeah, good album. They just have better albums in my opinion, and to me, does it go toe-to-toe against their classic stuff? Not really, in my opinion, but it is still a good album, so it's number 9. Coming in now at number 8, it is Bloodthirst, released in 1999. Yeah, this album to me was definitely kind of an improvement over Gallery of Suicide, and to an extent Vile too. This album, they kind of focused on writing songs that were kind of short and aggressive, but also that they were, you know, very just kind of catchy and super memorable. Some of my favorite Cannibal Corpse songs are definitely on this album for sure. Pounded Into Dust is a banger. The Spine Splitter, Ecstasy and Decay. Coffin Feeder is really good. Blowtorch Slaughter, man, that song is catchy as hell. And Condemned to Agony is also a really good song. I'd say maybe the only song I'm not really big on this album is Hacksaw Decapitation, but that's because like 1/4 of it is an intro and the other 3/4 of it is a pretty decent Cannibal Corpse song. Yeah, I do like the production of this album. I think for 1999, this is a pretty killer sounding album. Everything's clear and tight and punchy. Cannibal Corpse, Corpse Grinder sounds just vicious as hell. You know, again, he's one of the best death metal vocalists there is. I love Corpse Grinder. Yeah, Bloodthirst, this is a pretty killer album. It's just, for me, it's kind of more middle of the road, just because there's other albums I like more. I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but again, ranking bands like these are very difficult. When they have no bad albums and they're just consistently putting out awesome killer albums, it's difficult to, you know, decide which one you like more. So yeah, for me, Bloodthirst just kind of happens to land at number 8, even though I think it's a really good album. So, yeah. Coming in now at number 7, it is A Skeletal Domain, released in 2014. First of all, I really like the mix on this album. I think the production is really, really great. I think Eric Boutin knocked it out of the park with this production job. And yeah, to me, kind of out of their more modern era, I do really, really dig this album. I think, to me, this is a kind of an improvement over Torture, whereas Torture was a good album, but I think on this one they managed to just write songs that were catchier, more memorable. Like High Velocity Impact Spatter is an awesome song. Sadistic Embodiment is a banger. Killer Become is awesome. Murderer's Pact is really good. Ice Pick Lobotomy. Vector of Cruelty. God damn, that song whoops ass. Yeah, again, Cannibal Corpse at this point, they were just chugging along. They put out this really awesome album. Honestly, I think some of the best songs of their career on it. Yeah, Skeletal Domain, a bit of an overlooked album, maybe. I don't see a lot of people really talking about this album, but I think it is, like, certainly out of their modern era, like, one of their best albums. I say modern era. This album came out 10 years ago. But, man, yeah, Skeletal Domain, this is a really killer album. Some of my favorite Cannibal Corpse songs are on this album. Yeah, for me, it's number 7. Coming in now at number 6, it is Red Before Black, released in 2017. Now, out of the more modern Cannibal Corpse era, I guess, this is definitely my favorite. They bring back a lot of kind of thrashy elements on this album, which I think gives these songs a really kind of cool edge. Like Corpus Delicti is a thrashy, honestly, barn burner of a song. And yeah, this album is just fast, it's vicious, it's aggressive. And again, I really like the production of this album. The bass is thick and meaty, the guitars are nice, tight, and crunchy, and they write some really killer songs on here. Code of the Slashers is a really awesome song. Shedding My Human Skin is probably one of my top 5 favorite Cannibal Corpse songs, honestly. Firestorm Vengeance is awesome. I already mentioned Corpus Delicti. That song is really good. Scavenger Consuming Death. Oh, man. That song whoops ass. I fucking love Scavenger Consuming Death. And Destroyed Without Trace, too, is really good. I think this album is really, really killer. Again, I think this album is kind of maybe a bit overlooked. The album cover is kind of tame in comparison. It's just the POV of somebody getting stabbed. And also even the album title, like Red Before Black, you know. I think this album kind of does get overlooked, and not a lot of people really talk about it. But I think this is one of their best albums. I mean, it's the number 6 for me. I don't think it's better than really any of their super classic stuff, but this album is really just absolutely killer. Again, I love the thrashy vibes that are on a bunch of these songs. I love the aggression on this album. Yeah, Red Before Black, number 6, it is absolutely killer. Coming in now at number 5, it is Tomb of the Mutilated, released in 1992. This is by far and away their most well-known album, their most iconic album. Everything about this album, from the track Hammer Smash Face to the album artwork, is so iconic. Like Hammer Smash Face, that is the death metal song. If you claim to be a death metal fan but you don't know that song, it's like, how, you know? Everyone loves Hammer Smash Face. That is, again, it's the death metal anthem. And of course, you have Icon Blood on here as well. Those are the two big songs on this album everyone knows, even if it's just the titles are absolutely absurd. But yeah, those songs were great, catchy, hooky, heavy. Addicted to Vaginal Skin is also a banger. Necropedophile, you know, awesome song titles, and again, awesome songs. Cryptic Stench is a really awesome song. One kind of more deep cut on here that doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, is Beyond the Cemetery. I think that song is definitely a banger. Yeah, this is also one of the most important death metal albums ever released, in my opinion, because obviously this Cannibal Corpse would appear in Ace Ventura, you know, playing Hammer Smash Face, and, you know, that goose scene would go on to be so iconic, and that movie was so commercially successful that it really catapulted death metal into the mainstream eye for at least a short period of time. So yeah, this is one of the greatest death metal albums of all time, not just for the music itself, but for just its cultural, you know, importance, and how, you know, just its cultural importance and how important it was for bringing death metal to a lot of people that may have never heard of this stuff before. Yeah, I think this is an absolutely killer album. It's just number 5 for me, and, you know, with numbers like these, numbers like 5 through 1 might as well all be tied for being number 1. Yeah, but I do really dig this album. It's just number 5 for me, just because there's a few albums that I think are better. Alright, coming in now at number 4, it is Butchered at Birth, released in 1991. I love this album. This and Tomb of the Mutilated are kind of interchangeable for me, because I give kind of the edge to Butchered at Birth, whereas I think I like the production on Tomb of the Mutilated more. I like the songs on Butchered at Birth more. And this was obviously their follow-up to Eaten Back to Life, and this was just a full-blown death metal album. Like, Gone are like they have the thrash metal elements. Barnes' vocals have notably drop down a register. The production of this album definitely could have been better, in my opinion. The guitars definitely could have been beefier, but I think the production did kind of improve because you can hear the bass a little bit. I used to be not big on the mix, but it's grown on me a little bit. Also, this is the best artwork they ever had. I mean, come on, it is so gloriously just vile and grotesque and fucking awesome. This is my favorite Cannibal Corpse artwork. It is just awesome. And again, even though production maybe isn't the greatest, I just love the songs on here. Meat Hook Sodomy is awesome. Gutted, Under the Rotted Flesh, Covered with Sores, Vomit the Soul, the title track, Innards Decay, or Living Dissection, Rancid Amputation. I think I just named off every song on this album because I just love all of them. And man, god damn, this album fucking... Again, production could have been better, but I just love every single song on this album. Like, there's not a single dud on this album. Every one of these songs hits, and they hit hard. They're heavy, they're fast, they're vicious as hell. And again, Barnes' vocals, he sounds really great on this album. Back before, obviously, he sounded like Chris Barnes today. But yeah, Butchered at Birth, I think this is an absolutely killer album. For me, it lands at number 4. Coming in now at number 3, it is Kill, released in 2006. This album is pretty damn killer. A lot of these songs, they kind of are similar to Bloodthirst in a way, where they're just shorter songs, but they're very catchy and just super memorable. The Time to Kill Is Now. What a great way to open this album. Make Them Suffer is awesome. Necrosadistic Warning. 3 words. Death, Walking Terror. That is an awesome Cannibal Corpse song. One of their best, without a doubt. Purification by Fire is an amazing song. Maniacal is really, really good. Submerged in Boiling Flesh. Yeah, I think this album is absolutely killer. Production sounds great. Guitars are just... Again, this album just sounds like a chainsaw just cutting through you, and it does not give a fuck about your feelings. It is short. It's short songs, catchy songs, memorable songs, everything heavy. You know, it's basically everything you want out of a Cannibal Corpse album turned up to 11. They're firing on all cylinders, and they are just a great bunch of musicians at the top of their game, and they put out one of their best albums. And this is such a killer album for me. Kill, it's number 3, and again, 5 through 1 are pretty much all tied for being number 1. But Kill, number 3, it's awesome. I love it. Coming in now at number 2, it is The Bleeding, released in 1994. This is easily my favorite album of the Barnes era of Cannibal Corpse. This obviously was his final album before he exited. And this album, I think what they did was they kind of recognized the success of Hammer Smash Face, which was this great death metal song. It was very heavy, but it was also full of, you know, very memorable parts again, and just full of great, you know, catchy moments. And they decided to take Hammer Smash Face and kind of stretch it out into a full-length album. And, man, some of my favorite Cannibal Corpse songs are on this album. Staring Through the Eyes of the Dead. What a great way to open the album. Fucked with a Knife and Stripped, Raped, and Strangled. 2 of their most iconic songs. And honestly, Stripped, Raped, and Strangled is probably my favorite Cannibal Corpse song. That riff is just so damn catchy. Oh, dude, catchy as hell. Pulverized, She Was Asking For It, Force-Fed Broken Glass, the Pickaxe Murders, Title Track is a fucking banger. Yeah, The Bleeding, again, this is, like, amazing. I think Chris Barnes sounds really good, even though we kind of do get it's not the full-blown that he would be known for, but we do kind of get the little screechier moments on here, but I think they actually are, they sound good, actually, in comparison to a lot to later Barnes screeches, but man, The Bleeding, the vocals are great. This is just an absolutely awesome, vicious album. The production is great for 1994. Yeah, I love this album. This is my favorite Barnes era Cannibal Corpse album, and it's one of my favorite albums of all time. So for me, The Bleeding is number 2. And coming in now at number 1, it is The Wretched Spawn, released in 2004. This, I think, is the pinnacle of Cannibal Corpse. This is, in my opinion, the best Cannibal Corpse album. This is my favorite of the Corpse Grinder era of Corpse. And, man, some of the songs, man, I love pretty much every song on this album. Again, the songs, again, they're catchy. They're kind of more technical. There's, you know, Pat O'Brien who's really just kind of going nuts on this album. The production sounds fantastic. It's clean, but it's also not too polished. It's tight. and you know, everything on this album just sounds amazing in my opinion. Psychotic Precision, man, that song whoops ass. Decency Defied, Frantic Disembowelment. Everyone loves that song. Everyone should love that song. That song is amazing. Cyanide Assassin, Festering in the Crypt, kind of has like a darker, almost doomy feel at points. I fucking love that song. Nothing Left to Mutilate is awesome. Blunt Force Castration is a great song title and a great song. Bent Backwards and Broken is a banger too. They Deserve to Die. I love every song on this album. There's not a dud. This is a perfect album in my opinion. This is one of my favorite death metal albums of all time. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, period. Yeah, I love this album. Wretched Spawn for me. This is my #1 Cannibal Corpse album. Not clear cut because I do love a lot of these albums, but Wretched Spawn, I don't know. It really just jumps out at me in ways that some of the other albums don't. So yeah. It is a fucking amazing album, and yeah, well, that about does it. That wraps up this Cannibal Corpse discography ranking. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment down below. Tell me, what do you think about these albums? Do you agree with my rankings? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. Do consider subscribing as well, because I do have a lot more content coming your way. And if you made it to the end of this video, you're awesome, and I appreciate you. Yeah, like I said, that about does it. I, of course, am just a heavy metal maniac. I'll see you all sometime in the future. In the meantime, all of you take care and have a great day. So long.